Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Gen AI Workflows webinar. Today, we're going to be looking at the world of architecture and interior design. So, my name is Joel, and I work as the content and partnerships manager here at Leonardo. And today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Kelsey from Five Voice. Kelsey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks so much, Joel. Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Kelsey Boyce, co-head of creative at Five Voice Design. We're an interior design studio based in South Africa, and we're big fans of using Leonardo in our workflow. And looking forward to showing you what we do with it.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's going to be an awesome session today. And yeah, we're doing something a little bit different, which is bringing on Kelsey, who is a Leonardo customer, one that we love, who is doing incredible work with Leonardo. And yeah, we can't wait to see the awesome workflows that you're going to demo for us down the line. So, first up, a little housekeeping before we begin. This session will be recorded. So, you'll get a copy in your emails at the end of the session. And then we also throw it up on YouTube in the coming days. Our community team, Rob and Prashant, will be in the chat to answer questions as we go, but there will also be time for a dedicated Q&A towards the end of the session. Now, let's get into it. In terms of the run sheet for today, we're going to run about an hour in total. We're going to start by taking a look at a couple of industry case studies in the world of architecture and interiors. Then I'm going to do a very brief intro to today's workflows, and then we are going to do platform demos that should read Joel and Kelsey. I'm going to run two of the demos, and then Kelsey is going to run a demo that he uses out there in industry with clients and customers. And then we're going to have a little bit of time left for a Q&A. So yeah, like I said, feel free to ask any questions as you go in the chat, and our team will answer them. But at the end, we'll select sort of a few questions to focus on for that Q&A as well. So first up, how are architects and interior designers using Leonardo out there in industry? This first example is from Decibel. They are an architecture firm based down here in Australia, in Sydney, and they're using Leonardo for ideation and creative conceptual designs for presentations and briefs. So, for example, these are a few concepts from their team. Big shout out to Pete McHugh, who made these. This is for a job that they were doing for a racing track, like a horse racing stadium. And as you can see, these designs are kind of like, somewhat like they capture sort of like an interesting type of movement and flow. And here are some conceptual images that they also generated with Leonardo. Like I said, all about capturing like the idea of a horse race and what that might look like within the context of architecture. This next example is one that is very close to our heart indeed, uh, like Voice, which is Kelsey's studio. Look, I could tell you a little bit about what they do, but again, I'm going to throw to Kelsey here. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background about the kind of work that you do.
Sure. Thanks, Joel. Yeah, we love using Leo because of the control it gives us over the creative process. Ideation is great. We love that. We love using it for that. But for our industry, we need to be able to show the client a visual that's going to be an accurate depiction of what they're going to get at the end of the day. So control is everything for us. So basically, we feed our sketches into Leo and then leave it up to Leo to work its magic. And eventually, it produces a stunning visual for us that we present to our clients. And that will be an accurate representation of what the client's going to get at the end of the day. So for us, adherence to the actual structure and layout of the design is everything. So, and Leo comes through for us with that all the time.
Awesome. And here's a couple of examples of the sort of work that Kelsey does with Leonardo. And like I said, this is all going to be made plain a little bit later once we jump into the workflows and you actually see the client workflow that Kelsey is using. And I'd say it's really, really impressive. So, a little top line overview of today's workflows before we jump in. So, there's going to be three. The first is one that I'm going to run, which is ideating for architectural concept visuals, so a sort of a concept ideation workflow. The next is creating photorealistic renders from sketches, and this will be run by Kelsey. And finally, we'll be doing another ideation workflow, creating detailed concept designs for presentations. Now, by the end of the session, you should have a really solid understanding of how Leonardo can be used to help create, enhance your design and streamline the creation of both these sort of renderings as well as ideation assets. Now, without further ado, let's get into it and crack into the first workflow. Okay. So this one will look at ideating for concept visuals. We're going to start in flow state, which is reasonably new mode of image creation that is great for creating concepts. And then we're going to work on some different modes of prompting and exploring using the more like this function. And then finally, we'll look at different generation paths using the breadcrumbs, explore the different styles, and then look at upscaling and saving images from the feed. And by the end of it, you should be able to create a suite of images like these, which are sort of, yeah, like I said, concept images that you could use as part of a brief or a presentation when pitching to clients or putting together a mood board. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and open up the app. Okay, so this is well, normally I'd start on the home page over here. This is what you're going to see when you open the Leonardo homepage. And for today's workflow, we're going to focus on flow state. So you can navigate to flow state either by pressing the try flow state button here in the header or by going into image creation and then swapping over from classic mode to flow state over here. So from within flow state, you're going to see a bunch of different settings. You've got your style settings, which are ways to sort of control vibe, lighting, shot type, and color theme. What we're going to do is going to leave them all on automatic for now, and that's going to make sense in a little second. And then you can control your image dimensions. Maybe we'll use 16 by 9, assuming that we might use these images as part of like, a presentation or a deck. You can also explore different image dimensions over here. And we're going to leave all these settings on prompt enhance, private mode, and scroll to generate. Now, I'm going to start with a prompt that I've cooked up earlier. It's not too dissimilar to the images that you saw there in the deck. It's a Southwestern style stucco house with terracotta adobe facade, flat roof, wooden vigas, wrought iron balconies, tall cacti. And I'm going to hit generate, and then I'm going to see what flow state cooks up. Now, as I said, flow state is a really handy feature for ideating en masse. So that is creating a lot of images in varied styles and designs pretty quickly. As you can see, it's been a few seconds and we've got, dozens of images. And as I scroll down, you're going to see that more and more images generate. So they're sort of generating as I scroll. Now, this is really handy for it's sort of a very visual way to approach image generation. And it can be really handy when you don't know exactly the kind of, conceptual image that you're going for, but, here we can get a lot of different options. So from here, I can maybe start finding some that might work for what I'm looking for. I kind of like this one. Yeah, this sort of like sketch style. So I can hover over the more like this button. And what that will do is will let me know which styles are being used. So this is the sketch vibe, dramatic lighting, and the epic shot type. And then if I click more like this, you're going to see it creates another flow state. And now my feed is going to populate with images that are a little bit closer to that. Cool. I'm really liking the look of these actually. And if there's one that I'm starting to like and I might want to use later on as part of my presentation or just to sort of save, I can start clicking this button here to save them to the library. Awesome. Michael asks, it's conceptual ideation. What challenges have you encountered regarding AI generating building images that aren't possible to actually build? It's a good question. I think a couple of the other workflows will involve a little bit more like creative control and fine tuning of different image types. And I think those will be make a bit more sense when it comes to like, working on designs that are a little bit more client ready or, further along like a design process, particularly Kelsey's workflow. So yeah, I think stay tuned for those. So yeah, I'm just going to keep on saving things that I kind of like, things that sort of speak to me. It's worth noting with flow state that all these images that are being generated within the app, they're not actually saved to my account, to my feed. Um, in order to get those on my account, I need to press this save to library button. Otherwise, if I leave this flow and start a new flow by generating with a new prompt, they will disappear. So let's hone in once more on a design that we like. So I don't know. Let's kind of go with I don't know, something that looks kind of interesting. I'm just gonna say this one. And so now you can see we're kind of like 3 steps down, and all of these images are starting to look increasingly similar. Unlike before, where we had a little bit of variance in the background and sort of the shape of the building, these all have sky and they all have sort of like a washed out blue sky in this like watercolor style. So I might, say 1 or 2. And now I'm gonna show you how you can and so as we've gone, we've actually like the prompt is also updated. So you can see now we've got some of the original words from our prompt, but we've also got like additional words put into the prompt. Style is heroic and epic, featuring intense lighting, etc. So if there's a particular image that we like, we can explore it in more depth, but I'm also going to show you how we can change some of these settings to provide different ways of ideating. So maybe I like sort of what we're going, but I kind of like the idea of like an overhead shot. So I've got something different to present to a client. I'm going to try generating from that. So now you can see I've actually like overwritten that entire flow. So I can't go back to those images, but what I can do is now save some new ones. Ooh, quite like this one. And I can kind of keep on iterating from that. I can change the color theme, I can change the lighting, and I can change the vibe. So let's focus on this image here that I quite liked, and let's go to upscale it. With this image in the upscaler, there's two types of upscalers. We've got artistic and realistic. I'm going to use the artistic upscaler for this one. This focuses on kind of more like illustrative, non-photorealistic types. And then we've got our upscaler strengths. So we've got a mid, high, and ultra. Today I'll do one version high, and then I'll do another version on the mid just to show you. And so where do all of these images actually go? If I navigate back to the home screen and to the library, we can see that all of these images are saved here. So this is all the stuff that we've saved from our flow state now available. I could download them as needed, throw them in a deck. And it's just taking a second to load, but these are the images from the upscaler. Okay, cool. So you can see that those upscalers really added quite a lot of detail in there. It's increased the image size by about 2 times, and it's put in heaps and heaps of extra information into that image so that it'd be ready to present in a high definition version. So this is basically the end of workflow 1. Now, I hope you kind of got a little bit out of it. I know there was lots of questions coming in the chat, and hopefully we'll be able to get to some of them towards the end of the session. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw to Kelsey, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the next workflow, workflow 2, which is creating photorealistic renders from sketches. Kelsey, take it away.
Okay. So first bit of background into our process, we use 3D modeling software, which I'm sure most people in the industry would also use. And we use that to build a framework of the design for the client. In our case, we use a tool called SketchUp. Most architects and interior designers will use some sort of 3D modeling tool. Once we build that model, traditionally we then export that into a third-party rendering platform where we apply all the textures, the lighting, the camera angles, etc., to create a rendered shot of the model. And what we were finding is that all of this could be very, very time consuming and also very resource hungry. You need a really powerful computer to run it. And we were looking for a way to shortcut the process. So we looked around, but there was no Gen AI tool that we could find that was going to have the adherence to our original design. And we needed something that would really be an accurate representation of what we wanted to present to the client. So I'm just going to run you through how we do that. So again, we go to image creation. And then we like to use lifelike vision. We just find that it gives a really photorealistic end result, where you just leave the style dynamic. I mean, you can change it to cinematic, but we're happy with dynamic. Contrast, we leave there. We ordinarily do go to quality, but for purposes of the demo, time is of the essence. Put this at small. We normally put it at large. Advanced settings, we ordinarily click photo real, but we don't have to do that now. You can do that later. So what we would do here is we would go to content reference. And content reference, as it says, is the shape and structure of the reference image to influence output. And this is key for us. We would then take one of the sketches that we've exported from our 3D model. I'm going to use this one over here. You can see it's a fairly basic sketch of what we're wanting to render. And I'd use that as our content reference. Okay. And then now we need a mood image or a style reference image. So to get that, instead of trawling through the internet and looking through mood images, we actually use the describe with AI function over here. And we click back on that, so confirm. And basically that's going to give a description of the scene that we're trying to render. And I'll just look through this and I'll just edit it to make sure that everything's okay. And I actually want to put in here moody. That's all okay. I'm happy with that.
I just wanted to jump in for one sec. There was a question in the chat that says, is there a particular prompt structure for interior design? So you use that describe with AI feature to create your prompt. So I just wanted to kind of ask or query, like, is there a particular reason that you did that to create the prompt? Do you find that helps in any way?
I just find that it adheres to the structure of what we're trying to create quite well. So it's quite an easy way of, if it looks at that image that we've uploaded or the sketch that we've uploaded. If I do the describe with AI, it will give quite a decent prompt for creating a style reference, which is what we're after. Because when we combine the content reference with the style reference, that's going to give us our rendered image. So at this point, we're just looking to create a mood image or a reference image, not the final render. So that's why we'd come here now. We'd actually switch off the content reference. And we would just generate now to see what that description on its own or that prompt on its own would come up with. So I'm going to hit the generate key and see what it comes up with. Obviously, if you've got your own mood images, you can always upload those. But I found that this is a handy way of getting Leonardo to actually ideate for you as well. And you can see, so any of these I could actually present to a client from a mood point of view and say, okay, well, if I had to do a mood board before we actually did the final presentation, I could use any of these images. But I wanted to use it as a style reference at this point. So I really like that one. I think it captures the essence of what we're looking to achieve in our design. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch content reference back on, but now I'm going to add a style reference. And I will almost find that the style reference overrides the prompt. I'm going to go to the generations that we've just produced. I think it was that one that I liked. So I'll select that. And we've got our content reference set to mid, and now we've got our star reference set to mid. So yeah, the star reference, I can't emphasize this enough, is really, really strong. Your prompt is one thing, but whatever you've generated in your star reference is going to dictate the end result. And yeah, but now we'll see what it comes up with. So basically it's going to adhere to the content reference, but with that star. So we click generate again. This is where I always hold my breath. And important again to emphasize that it's not always the first pass that will come out right, but yeah, very often it does.
There's an interesting question in the chat that I wanted to throw to you as we go, which is, would this work without a 3D rendering? For example, an architect's interior office drawing, space plan, or permit set. So using that instead of your 3D image for SketchUp.
It would, as long as the structural integrity of that drawing is okay. So it doesn't have to be, it wouldn't have to be a 3D modeling tool. You could basically use any sketch that's going to depict that 3D sort of view that you want. So yeah, it doesn't have to be SketchUp. If you can like hand draw a decent sketch, that would work as well. But you can see what it's done here is, I just click on some of these. It's okay, I would crop it here. We've got lots of plants coming through there, but it's totally adhered to the structure of what we were looking for. And that's really great. We can cut those out. That's great as well. And that's great as well. What I'm going to do is I also have I'm going to upload, because remember, you can have more than one style reference. So I'm going to upload another style reference over here. If you're not happy with that, I'm actually going to turn that one off. And then I'm going to have another shot at rendering that and see what that comes up. And that's the beauty of this. It's like in seconds giving us end result that would ordinarily take us literally hours. And you're not having to draw in ceilings, skirting, lighting, anything like that. You're just having to put in a basic sketch. And yeah, you could do a hand drawn sketch. Yeah, I'm loving all of these actually. Really like that one.
Yeah.
Any of these are really great. In fact, I love this one. So what we would then do is, if we're happy, I'm just going to browse through the others to see. I mean, that's also amazing, amazing. They're all great. I mean, you can always do post editing as well in Canvas. So if there's anything that you don't like that you want to take out, I mean, say you didn't want that radiator there, you just go into Canvas and take it out. If you want to change the fabric on these chairs, you do the same, but it's picked up on the wooden cladding over there, the prittle windows over there, the prittle windows. This is definitely something that we could use. So I'd be happy with this.
Before we wrap things up, there was a question around, could you show the original image? Just like if you click on the content reference, just that sketch, and just so that people can see how far we've actually gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just do that. Just remember that that's the one I want to keep. So I'll go back to our content reference. I'm going to zoom in here. Tell me if it doesn't work.
No, that's great. Yeah.
So you've got that. So you can see it's really preserved the integrity of that layout. I've got my chairs, I've got the timber cladded wall, I've got my crystal windows over here. It's adhered completely to that structure. And that for us in interior design is everything, because you've got to show the client what you're going to be giving them at the end of the day. You know, the ideation part is fantastic when you're looking for inspiration, but when you've got a design and you want to render it, and as an alternative to going to a third party rendering platform, we put into Leonardo now. So say I'm happy with, let's take this one. We upscale it. I always keep it realistic. The more photorealistic, the better. Let's upscale it here. Just wait a few seconds. But, and also to understand that I've done this in about like 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, you can really push this further. I mean, that's fantastic. I love that. I mean, yeah, that would have taken me a long time to get all these details and these lighting and the ceiling detail and everything. So yeah, that in a very brief nutshell is how we create a rendering.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelsey. That was really incredible. It was really great to see, yeah, the live workflow and to just, I don't know, see you go from sketch to, fully fledged rendering so quickly.
Literally in seconds.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. I'm just going to jump into our next workflow. So this next workflow is another ideation workflow, and it focuses on creating detailed concept designs for presentation. So yeah, it's another way of creating concepts, but this one allows us to sort of take a little bit more fine-tuned control than with flow state. And it focuses on using Phoenix within image creation, sort of our classic mode. So we're going to start with using Describe with AI for reference images to write a prompt and get us going. And then we're going to upload a style reference to add some mood, similar to what Kelsey was doing there. Then we're going to use our Edit with AI function. Now, Edit with AI is a fantastic tool, works with our Phoenix model, and helps you adjust your image using natural language. You can see what that looks like in a sec. We'll use it to mix up some architectural styles, and then we'll use it to create some different shots and building angles. And then finally, we'll organize some of those images into a collection. Some examples that we cooked up earlier. This is sort of like a public like terminal style concept building that we've been working on. Some that we ideated, exploring different styles and shot types, and then again exploring what that might look like. But without further ado, I will show you what it looks like within the app. From within image creation, gonna want to stay on classic mode for this workflow, and then you're going to want to navigate to Phoenix. Now, we're going to use Phoenix 0.9, which is not quite our newest Phoenix model, but the reason we're going to use Phoenix 0.9 for this one is that Phoenix 0.9 has access to the image guidance suite, including style reference and image to image. Now, we'll leave most of the settings as is. I might just change the style to cinematic for this one to give us kind of those like photorealistic style images. They're going to work for a brief or a presentation. I'm going to leave the generation mode on fast just because we're demoing and we want to be able to create assets reasonably quickly and on the fly. And I'll leave the image dimensions as 16 by 9 and small so that we can generate at speed. The larger the images you generate, the slower it will be to generate. So similar to Kelsey, I'm going to start by actually using Describe with AI to get a prompt going. And I'm going to use one of those conceptual images that we created earlier. I think there was a question in the chat around could I use an image that I took of a building, like a photo of a building, or perhaps something from your own like library, something that your studio has worked on? And yes, you definitely can. So I used Describe with AI on that AI generated image that we had, but you could easily use that on a photo that you had in your own library or an asset that you owned. And all that it does is the AI describes the contents of the building. Now I'm going to generate to see what that looks like, to see if it's kind of getting the right picture of the image that I gave it. But then I'm also going to add in a style reference or a couple of different style references, give you a little bit of a sense to give the generation a little bit more guidance. So this is kind of, ballpark, like the similar style, this kind of flowy wooden structure that we are using the reference image. And then now when I add in the style reference, it's adhering a little bit more to the style of the original image, keeping the colors a little bit more aligned. And I could also add in a style reference for an image with a slightly different character. So let's say I added in one for, I don't know, this image that has a little bit more of a daytime, like that's, had shot in the daytime. We can then see that it should hopefully give it a little bit more of a lighter flavor. People asked earlier about the strength. So when we're putting on any of our image guidance reference images, we can pick between sort of a low, medium, or high, or in the case of file reference, ultra or max. So I normally leave it on mid, which gives the platform a little bit of latitude. So it's, not adhering too much to the image, but it's still giving it, it's still weighting it somewhat in the output. But yeah, if you really want it to adhere to that style reference, you can pump that up to high. Okay, so we've got a couple different options there from playing around with style references. But the real meat and potatoes of this workflow comes in with Edit with AI, which is really, really powerful. So let's say that we ballpark like where we got to with these generations. I'm now going to use this little button here, this pencil with the sparkle icons, click in, and then we've activated Edit with AI. So this is a way of using natural language to edit and change up the generations. So like in the examples here, it's just a matter of saying, make this blue, make this daytime, add dramatic lighting, etc. So I'm going to start with a few architectural style prompts that I've cooked up earlier to kind of show you what it can do. So this first is, make this in an Art Deco style, introduce decorative motifs, symmetrical lines, and metallic accents. So let's see where it gets to with that. And hopefully you'll see how powerful this feature can be and how you can use quite specific language and quite specific ideas to ideate on the fly. Okay, cool. So it's picked up some of that and it's added in some Art Deco flourishes there. It's changed up some of the kind of like we've got kind of these vintagey lampposts, and like obviously these are slightly lower quality images, slightly smaller, but that happened within about, I don't know, 4 seconds. So you can see that how powerful this can be as an ideation tool. And let's go back to our original set of images that we kind of flagged, and I'll just show you like a couple more examples. So let's say make this a brutalist reinvention style, transform into raw concrete with heavy geometric forms. And then I'm going to try one more, a little bit more modern. So make this using high-tech glass and steel, enhanced transparency and structural expression. And so we can see this is the original set of images, right? And if I expand the prompt using that button here, we can see how it's, modern architectural structure, distinctive wave like wooden facade, etc. And then on these images that we've used Edit with AI, what it's done is it's edited the prompt significantly to include a natural language suggestion. So this one now has that reflected in the Art Deco, in the symmetrical motifs. This is our brutalist attempt at the same building. Okay, cool. I quite like this. It's changed up the structure quite a bit, but I think this one is really speaking to me. And this is the one where I've asked it to use concrete and glass. Okay. Now I'm going to give you one more example of how Edit with AI can be useful for your workflows. So let's say that, okay, we've kind of ideated around style and we've got a few things that are kind of like speaking to us in some way. Now we can use Edit with AI to prompt for different angles and views of our design. And it should more or less keep some of the similar aspects of our building, but, mixing up, yeah, the way that it's presented. So let's say we wanted to kind of now ideate on this brutalist building that we've got here. So let's say like give me a version with, and then what I cooked up earlier, give me a version in a bird's eye perspective. Um, or like, give me a version with overhead perspective. See if that makes any difference. But basically, cool. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's given us pretty similar building. Oh, this one's crazy. I like the car park. And then again, oh, this has given us another view in Thailand. Oh, really liking that one. And you can do that again. So, like, say we wanted, going back to that brutalist structure. So, give me a version with a low angle dramatic shot. And let's say we wanted something to present to a client as part of a pitch. You could say, and we know that this building is going to be in like an urban context in a big city. I can prompt it to give me a version in a busy urban context, and we can see hopefully from there what that might look like. Okay, so this is our low angle dramatic shot, looking pretty dramatic, particularly this one. And this is the one that we asked for in an urban context. So we've got people, we've got motion, we've got taxi cabs. These will all need to be kind of cleaned up a little bit. But as you can see, we're getting to a place where we're able to throw together some assets all in a unified style pretty quickly. So from here, I'll show you how we just spent a whole, 10 minutes like generating images, and you can organize your assets in a way that gets them ready to present. So you can go to your library, and within the library, you can click this select over here. And then what that will let you do is pick the images that speak to you. So I was quite enamored with the brutalist building. So I might start to pick a few of them. and collect the ones that I think were kind of working or starting to work for me. And then I can click on this organize button here and then click on new and create a new collection. So collection is our system of folders for sorting and organizing assets. So I'm going to call these brutalist ideas. So they've all been added there. And then from the collections tab in the library, I can now open up this folder and view all of these images that I generated on the fly. From there, I can then take them into Upscaler or Canvas Editor for further refinement and get going on creating some high definition assets for a client. So this kind of comes to the end of our workflows section. Thank you all so much for tuning in thus far. We've now got a good amount of time for our Q&A. I know there's been heaps and heaps of questions coming in in the chat. I've taken note of a few. The first comes from Benjamin. He asks, can you explain in more detail sketch to image and depth to image and when you decide to use either? I'll throw back to my screen for a sec and show you what those different image guidances look like and when you might use them. So in image creation, say we go to Cinematic Keynote, and within image guidance, you can open up the full image guidance menu. And from here, you can see all of our different image guidance options. Now, there's sort of two core ones that we use in these workflows are style reference for inputting style from your reference image and content reference for referencing the form and content from your input image. Depth to image and edge to image are also extremely powerful. Depth to image detects the depth features of the input image. This can be really good for 3D renders. So in Kelsey's workflow that we used earlier, depth to image might give a reasonably similar result to content reference, and edge to image depicts the edges of any input image. So this is particularly good for like a line drawing or a sketch, whereas depth to image is probably better at something for an image that has depth, so a 3D render. The difference between them and content reference is that content reference is a little bit more contextual in how it references the input image. That is to say that it takes into account things such as, color and shape and form a little bit more than depth to image, which is more about, like I said, depth, and edge to image, which is more about line. So I hope that answers some of your questions there. There was another question that came up, which was about our upscaler tool and how you know how much an upscaler is upscaling an image. So let's go to an image that I cooked up earlier. So say you want to create an asset of a particular size. This is one of the stucco houses that I was working on before. And I can see that this upscale has multiplied it by 2 times. So I've got the original size of the image over here, which is 1024 by 1024. And then I've got the upscale dimensions here. So it's being increased by 2x. And the new dimensions are 248 by 248. So it's a 2K image. So I hope that answers that question around the upscaler. Lena asks, is it possible to create an image with text inside that can be easily corrected or modified later? Or would the text be permanently embedded into the image? I think that's a really good question. I'll show you what that might look like. So if we go back to image creation and we navigate to Phoenix. So Phoenix is a really powerful model for creating text within images, which can be really handy for a number of different purposes. I'll show you some examples that I cooked up earlier. So these were just to kind of present at the start of the webinar, but it's a building that looks a little bit like the Sydney Opera House, but it's got the word Leonardo.AI at the front. So let's copy that prompt, and I'll show you how very quickly using a model such as Phoenix, you can edit text within images. We'll just wait for that one to generate. So as you can see within the prompt, it's highlighted spelling out Leonardo AI. And so that's why the platform knows to put that text within the image. Now I can go back to our old friend Edit with AI here, and I can quite quickly say, okay, change the text to read, and then here you can put in anything. And if I go back to Edit with AI here, and we can see pretty quickly without having to open a more complicated post-processing tool, I'm able to change that text within the image. Sean asks, what if you have a specific piece of furniture that you want to place in one of the images you've created? This is a really nice one to actually throw to Kelsey. Kelsey, how would you feel about showing everyone that furniture workflow that you had for that share? I believe you showing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that again is a good question. Let me just delete this, all of that. So what we do, if we do have a particular piece of furniture that we want to put into an image up on here, again, we'll use content reference. And I'm actually going to upload one. So you can see, 1 second. We've got this chair over here. Just zoom in. Sorry. And it's pretty basic. It's got no textures or anything on it, but we've got it positioned exactly how we want to in a room. But again, I come back to style reference. If I've got a reference picture of that chair, which I happen to have here, all I then need to do is go, I'm just going to do a really simple prompt to say a black cane chair with white upholstered cushions. Again, I always leave it on mid, same settings that I have over there. I generate. So what it should do is generate that chair in that position, but with all of these textures applied to it. And this is really great if you want to create a furniture specification or anything like that for your clients. You should be able to do it here. Yeah, and there we go. So I took a image of the chair that was just a sketch, and it's gone and applied all of those textures for it. I mean, I would just go and remove the background now if I just wanted that chair on the side, but it's in the position that we wanted. It's got the, I could clean that up, but it's got the fabric that I wanted. I mean, that's actually perfect. So it's even added in an ottoman for me. So yeah, that's what we do. But more importantly for us, the positioning of that chair is in the same space all the time. So we could then go remove background if we wanted to use that as an asset and then copy it, go into Leonardo Canvas, and then just composite that into whatever image you've got of your room. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, yeah, that was great. I think that definitely did. And someone asks about specific materials. So, like, say you take a sketch that you've developed in a 3D modeling software or elsewhere, and you want to kind of capture specific materials using AI for a particular approach that you take.
Yeah, that's a But a tricky one, but that's where, if I went into further depth, that what we do sometimes is stitch images together. So we create them in Leonardo, and we would just focus on a wall, for example. So if you wanted a face brick wall or a brick wall, we would then take all the furniture out, but keep the shot of the room the same. We would apply in your sketch, your hand drawn sketch, or your SketchUp sketch, or whatever, just apply a basic brick texture And then we would say in our prompt, a brick wall on the left, and it would come back and it would put exactly in that position the brick wall on the left. And again, you then just select that, go to canvas, and then put it into you stitch it back into your model. Similarly, with fabrics, if you upload a reference of the fabric that you're looking to use, say I wanted a floral fabric or whatever fabric I wanted on this, I could actually, excuse me, I've uploaded that fabric, and then it generally would apply that fabric to the upholstery on that chair. So it definitely is possible. It's a little more tricky, but it can be done.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kelsey. Yeah, I think that definitely answered the question. So thank you everyone for your incredible questions. As always, nice that we got to get through a few of them. Hope that these clarified some of the workflows. We're coming up on time, so I'm going to start to wrap things up. So thank you for attending Gen AI Workflows for Architecture and Interior Design. This was the fifth and final in our series of Gen AI Workflows webinars. We've got a lot of exciting content coming up. In the meantime, feel free to explore Leonardo for Teams. Teams is our multiplayer platform. It's a way where you can collaborate with people using Leonardo, share assets, manage your billing from one single account. In order to create a team, you just go into your Leonardo account, drop down from the account menu, click create a new team, and then select how many team members you would like. This is great for a studio or a firm where you might have 10 designers collaborating, 15 designers collaborating. It's really handy. We use it here at Leonardo to put together these webinars, and we're always shipping updates for our Teams features. A couple QR codes to leave you with. The first will prompt you to join the Discord community. On our Discord, you can get support and tips from our experienced team like Rob and Prashant who are in the chat, as well as millions of other users. I think coming on nearly 2 million. And you can scan this next QR code here to go to our webinars page on the website. There you can browse our past webinars, including more from the Gen AI Workflow series on fashion and product design, film and TV, marketing and advertising, and video games. So if you like this session, catch up on some of those recorded webinars on demand. What do you think, Kelsey? How did you feel about today's session?
Oh, it was great. It's just so wonderful to be able to share what we've experienced with video, and it's really made a massive impact to our business. And yeah, I'd like as many people out there to start playing around with it. Don't be scared. And I really do think this is the future of rendering and visualization in interior design.
Yeah, well, it was so great to see you describe it because it's one thing for the Leonardo team who's working on the platform, but it's another thing entirely to see someone who's using it out there in industry and to see how it's actually delivering a lot of value to you and how you're able to enjoy using the platform yourself. So thank you so much for coming on.
See you, base. Yeah. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And thank you everyone for coming along today. Really appreciate you tuning in as always. You'll get an email with a copy of this recording, and we'll also put this up on YouTube in the coming days. So don't worry, if you feel like you missed anything, you'll get a chance to watch this webinar on demand. Thank you, everyone. We're going to jump out. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world.
Good March. Cheers.